Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. I am Evan Mack, joined, as always, by Ross Reed. You can follow us on Twitter. Follow me at The Real Evan Mack. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. We have a packed show today. Remember, if you've missed any of the previous shows, you could catch them on iTunes, Spotify for the audio. OTAs at length, as that's just kicked off, and a whole lot to go with the Bears conversation to kick off the show with Jaylon Johnson absent. We're talking about players like Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet lost that game 4, and so the 5, and then the Nuggets sweep the Lakers, and LeBron is now questioning retirement at this point. Gasp. And we'll talk about Memorial Day activities. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing great.
Good. You gotta let me know if my internet's acting up. It's I've been having some technical difficulties lately, so please let me know.
Oh boy. Well, I've asked you how Miami was twice, so we're off to a great start.
We are very, very similar to how Florida Governor Ron DeSantis just tried to announce his candidacy for presidency. We're also having some technical difficulties right now.
Yeah, apparently. But the Bears to kick off, Ross, as we dive into things. And, if you want to lead it off in terms of OTAs, I know that it's really early on. I'd say the only thing I saw really with OTAs was the big storyline was DJ Moore and Tremaine Edmonds sort of leading the pack and showing by example how good they can be and how they can certainly elevate both sides of the football right away with DJ Moore. Or, of course, the new Bears wide receiver and Tremaine Edmonds now sort of anchoring that Bears defense, which is going to be looking a bit different than last year, that's for sure. Hopefully not bottom of the league. So to just talk about the expectations, if you could, Ross, and yeah, what to expect with OTAs just starting off as of yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for OTA starting off here, it's a good opportunity, obviously, for the offense to get up to speed. Justin Fields hasn't really gotten on the field yet with a lot of these new wide receivers that he's had, DJ Moore that you're talking about, Tyler Scott, the rookie. But then also, Chase Claypool was hurt, for a big part of last year, right? So you get Chase Claypool back on the field, you get him healthy again. We heard good things about him and how he showed up in the camp, focused and in shape. Darnell Mooney was hurt last year. That's a big part of it. Robert Tonyan. I think the Bears are trying to figure out where the majority of these targets are going to be at and how they're going to game plan this offense around them. So that was the most important thing for me. The defense, I already knew Tremaine Edmonds was gonna be awesome, right? That's why he got all that money in free agency and coming in. It's gonna be fun to see them acclimate some of the rookies to that situation, especially those guys up front on the defensive line. Eddie Jackson is gonna take his time to get healthy, and you want him to take his time. We still have plenty of time there. I think it's a little frustrating. I think for you heard it in Matt Eberflus's voice this week. It's a little frustrating to see Jaylon Johnson not out there. He is looking for a new contract, as is a couple other Bears on that team right now, and maybe that's a factor as to why he didn't show up to the situation. And so that's something to keep an eye on. Are the Bears willing to pay him right now? And then B, what's he looking for is how that going to factor into the start of the season, because it feels like we were kind of just here last year when we were talking about Roquan Smith, right? And Roquan Smith held out for a while, showed up at the start of the year, and then boom, he got traded and he was gone. So you have to wonder, how does this all figure out with Jaylon Johnson? But for me, OTA right now is about the offense. It's Luke Getsy's second season calling plays, offensive coordinator. He should be more comfortable underneath his belt. It's Justin Fields building that chemistry with DJ Moore and Chase Claypool, because he was hurt for a lot of that piece that last year after getting traded to the Bears, and getting those guys in a rhythm. We've heard Justin Fields has been quicker with the football out of his hands in the offseason, and we know what DJ Moore can do. We think we know what Chase Claypool can do and what Darnell Mooney can do, and now we need to blend all these guys together and see how they mesh.
Yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to the Bears offense and their new tools that are behind Justin Fields. And Justin Fields, let's also just circle on the subject of the offense too, is in the headlines because of what he said when just being asked about his contract situation. And he basically just said, I'm and I'll show it here. I'm not worried about contracts. I'm worried about wins. I could care less. This is in that all-important third year where he's entering, where you see that jump with the competition around him, where you see the likes of Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts just getting huge contracts and being the highest paid players at their positions, up there with Mahomes and company. And, Burrow's in the conversation. So is Justin Herbert. And, Justin Fields is now, there's all this hype around them, certainly with the potential, and look at fantasy rankings and all that. But you look at the tiers of quarterbacks, he's certainly in that third tier. He's not even in that echelon of those guys that I mentioned so far. So in OTAs, this is going to be that first look where we get to see the protection. Has that improved? And can he build chemistry with those guys around him? You mentioned guys being in contract years, big play guys like Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney, for example. And now you got DJ Moore, who's a bona fide number one, and then Chase Claypool. It looks like on paper one of those better receiving groups out of this league, and certainly in the NFC North, they could make some noise too, especially with the departure of Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I guess speak to that, Ross, and what you expect out of OTAs. I know it's very early on, and training camp will be more of when we see that, but what you would look forward to in Justin Fields and sort of making that jump. Then we'll talk about the contract talks as well.
Yeah, I just want to see him be more confident. I want to see him kind of be more confident in realizing that now this is his, going into his third season. I kind of throw out the first off season, for rookies, especially quarterbacks, I throw out that stretch between when those guys were drafted into the start of their first season, because there's just so much going on. The game is still so fast for them. They're trying to learn a new playbook. They're trying to get acclimated to NFL life. So on and so forth. You don't know if you're going to be the starter. In Justin's case, he was not the starter week one, right? When he was with the Bears. And so to me, this is his now second season and really adjusting to NFL life in the off season and transitioning into the season. And so I want to see him be more comfortable, be more acclimated, be more of a leader out on that football team. I want to see how his mechanics look. I want to see the chemistry that he's built with some of these guys and some of these receivers and stuff like that. And then also, most importantly, right, we want to see all these guys stay healthy. That's really the most important thing, because this is OTAs. It is only May, even though we get excited about football, but we got a long way to go until week one when the Packers come to town. We need to keep these guys as healthy as possible. But from Justin, I kind of tweeted this out today. While I'm happy that he's saying things like, it's all about the wins, and we want to just win football games, not thinking about the contract and stuff like that. I do believe him in some capacity, but I don't because I know that he is a young man who is now entering his third year, and every athlete or just anybody in general wants to get paid. They want to get money. They want to go out there and prove that they deserve this money. And he sees these contracts that have been given out this year, from Lamar Jackson to Jalen Hurts, right, to what Joe Burrow is about to make and Justin Herbert is about to make, and so on and so forth. And he recognizes that he could be a $50 million a year guy if he strings together a really good quality season. And that has to be top of mind. And guess what? I am 100% okay with that, because if Justin Fields goes out there and balls out this year, number one, the Bears are going to be in a playoff contention situation, because they have every opportunity to be so in a down NFC North right now. And then number two, that means he had a really good year, which is all we really want to see, right? We want to see us finally get that franchise quarterback that we've never had in our lifetimes. We've come close, the Jay Cutlers of the world and stuff like that, but we've never actually seen a guy really be a perennial all-pro caliber quarterback. And so if he throws for 3,500 yards this year and has 30 touchdown passes and 800 yards on the ground and 8 or 9 rushing, touchdowns, and has, anywhere between, 12 and 15 interceptions, like a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, he deserves that contract. And that probably means the Bears have won at least 7 to 9 games this year. I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, you could hope that the only hope is that Justin Fields does continue to go ahead and progress, that the way these other two guys we mentioned that just got big contracts, and Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson just got paid huge. He can say, I'm not worried, and that's the right move to make. You're not going to make it about you at this point. You care about the team progressing. You care about the offense turning it around as much as the defense and getting back into the win column where it counts. But, next year he's going to change his tone for sure, especially if he gets, above 500 or like snips the playoffs and he starts to throw close to 30 touchdowns, something like that. And if he's that first passer to 4,000 yards, still, I think, one of the only franchises in the league, if not the only one, I don't have it in front of me, that does not have that 4,000 yard passer. That's something right there. And Justin Fields, I agree with you. There's not much to be seen in OTAs. We really got to see training camp, what else to look forward to. But Ross, as we talk about the Bears as a whole, I know we touched on, the receivers as well, but defensively, what are you looking for? The contract guys and the Jaylon Johnson situation, if you could sort of rehash that a little bit and what we can expect as we roll on the offseason here.
Yeah, the cornerback position is difficult. As I'm talking here, I'm gonna pull up quarterback salary wise. There's a huge gap in that position there, and obviously Jaylon Johnson wants to get paid like one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. But he really can't stay on the football field, and that's going to be an issue for the Bears. What is his value, and that's going to be we saw Ryan Poles play hardball last year with Roquan Smith, and didn't really get there with him, and ended up trading him away. I like Jaylon Johnson a lot. I think he's a quality football player, but I need to see him on the football field consistently, and it would have been nice for him to have a good faith situation and show up to OTAs and be out there with his football team and be out there with especially some of the new guys. Tremaine Edmonds is out there and stuff like that. And Jaylon Johnson, he's a veteran. He should be a leader on that defense going into this year. Him and Eddie Jackson, in my opinion, should be some of the leaders on that defense. They've been here for a long time now. And so I would have liked to have seen that. Now you start to look at who can step up in his spot to maybe, push him and take some reps right now in OTAs and push to really show the Bears that they can be that guy going forward. You look at a guy like Tyreek Wilson, rookie that they just drafted, right? You look at Terrell Smith, another rookie that they just drafted as well. Those guys are basically sitting behind Jaylon right now in the depth chart, but they're not too far behind Jaylon on the depth chart. Kyler Gordon's going to be going into his second season as a pro, and we hopefully have high hopes for him as a second-round draft pick. And Kendall Vildor has been a veteran in this league for a long time. And he's got an opportunity, even though he was the guy that, for all intents and purposes, what we heard was the one that got burned on the double move by DJ Moore. But DJ Moore is going to do that to 85% of the corners in this football league right now. But it's going to be interesting how this Jaylon thing unfolds going forward. I thought Matt Eberflus was very he was short about the Jaylon Johnson situation, but you can see it kind of in his tone and his face that he wasn't happy that he was missing that time. And he doesn't even know if Jaylon's going to be there when mandatory camp starts in a couple of weeks, which I think is the big question mark going forward. Real quick on salary stuff. Right now you're looking at guys top of the league: Jair Alexander, Denzel Ward, Jalen Ramsey, Marlon Humphrey. Those guys are making $21, $20, $19 million a year. Jaylon Johnson's not in that territory, right? Some guys after that: Xavier Howard, Tre'Davious White, J.C. Jackson. Those guys are in the $18, $17, $16 million a year range. I don't think Jalen's there either. And so you got to start looking underneath that at like Darius Slay, Charvarius Ward, Jamel Dean, Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury. Those guys are in the 14 to 13 million range. And that's where you start having the Jaylon Johnson conversation. To me, he's more of like a $12, $11 million a year corner. But does he think that that's going to be the big question going forward? Because he might want more than that. And I think we might have serious issues on our hands if that's the case.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to handle too, especially for the other contract, disputes that are probably forthcoming with old Kmet. And if he has another big season, a bigger season, if he continues to progress, and if Darnell Mooney plays up to it, you'd figure with these three guys, someone's not going to show up though. There's that part of it too, and where they kind of overplay their hand, or they're just underperform, and that's just the I don't know, just the nature of the league, the reality of it for sure. So OTAs we've talked about, sort of what the timeline looks like. Next up will be training camp very soon after that, and man, that's when we will be recapping every week just these positional battles that'll be so pivotal. We'll be seeing the Fields and Moore connection, which should be pretty big to see, and the maturity that Justin Fields shows, and then that rotation with the line, and to see how their first overall draft pick that they had, 9th overall draft pick, I should say. It was 10th. They traded that. But anyways, how they go ahead and fit him into the lineup at right tackle, and then the rest of the offensive line, how they were pretty good about moving around when they needed to, when you have to adjust to those injuries and everything that goes on to that. And then the defense, those new pieces, it's really just, besides that secondary, a real turnaround to that front seven, and how it looks now that Tremaine Edmonds is leading there, and then see who can emerge as a sort of a pass rusher. And it's still in training camp, it can only give you so much, but we shall see. What else are you looking forward to as we get towards that date where they report for training camp, Ross?
Yeah, I think, two things for me. This is a big transition period for the coaching staff. I mean, remember, this is a rookie coaching staff from last year, all across the board, right? Matt Eberflus, rookie head coach; Luke Getsy, rookie offensive coordinator; Alan Williams, rookie defensive coordinator; and then you have Richard Hightower as well, the special teams coach. So now these guys get a year underneath their belt, and you have to feel like they're more comfortable in their positions as well. To me, this feels like all eyes on Luke Getsy from this moment on all through the year, because he has an opportunity to really walk away from this season setting himself up to be a really hot commodity as a potential head coach going forward. If he can get the most out of Justin Fields and DJ Moore, and he can get that running game going with Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, the rookie, and Deontay Foreman and stuff like that, then all of a sudden Luke Getsy is going to be on a lot of people's short list for to be a head coach in this league, because these quarterbacks are going to look more like Justin Fields coming out of the draft. And we saw that this year, guys like Anthony Richardson and stuff like that. That's the trend going forward. So he really has a microscope on his back, on him this year, as he tries to get that offense to something that we really haven't seen consistently as a Bears fan in a long time. We had some moments there. Mark Trestman had a couple moments. Jay-Z, like he says in Takeover, you had a spark when you started, but now you're still garbage. And so you have to see, yes, You have to see if you've got that continuity and if Luke Getsy can build on that. And if he can, listen, as much as we would hate to see him go, if that means that he did walk away because he had a successful run as offensive coordinator, it means Justin had a good year. The offense had a good year. And DJ had a good year, and Moore and Claypool and so on and so forth. And the Bears are kind of humming along. And you take that. You'll take that. You'll find a new offensive coordinator and so on and so forth. So I'm looking at those guys. And the last thing, it's usually the most important thing, and it's the thing that coaching staff says to all their players when they leave between now and the mandatory stuff: don't get in trouble. I just came from Miami. I came from South Beach. That is a spot that you can get in trouble at. Do not get in trouble in that time frame between now and when we have to report to training camp and stuff like that. Keep it clean, stay healthy, continue to focus on the playbook, focus on keeping your weight down and stuff like that, and stay out of the police fodder, stay off TMZ, please, stay off the Twitter timeline, stuff for all the negative stuff, all those things. Just do not get in trouble. Don't get hurt, don't get in trouble.
Summertime Chicago too can be tough on you as well, as we know that Roquan had his situation as well, which didn't help him in his contract negotiations. Shout out Ross with the takeover bars too. That was incredible. Well done. Well done. Good shit. Right off the top. He's refreshed, baby. He's not wearing his fedora from Miami though. I'm disappointed.
No, I got it. You let me know. I smoked hookah. I don't even smoke hookah. I mean,
you smoked hookah in Miami? God damn.
Miami is just
in a long time.
It's a mythical city where you just drink champagne at 11 a.m. and smoke hookah. And
that's what I'm on. Maybe not the hookah, but I'll drink champagne at 11 a.m. That's fine. I'm on vacation. Little weekend vacation. You did the anniversary right, Ross. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, not too much else as far as the NFL is concerned, although we have to talk about our former Bear, David Montgomery. Damn, dragging the Bears with his new team, the Detroit Lions. And he said, quote, "That's all I was used to," he said on losses in Chicago. "And it got to a point where it sucked the fun out of the game for me because I'm a competitor. I like to compete. That's what football is about. It's so refreshing to be in a place where that's appreciated." I like David Montgomery, but if he wants to run his mouth, first of all, it's on. And, you know, the Bears, maybe this Bears-Lions rivalry will be, you know, sort of reflamed, reignited now that both teams are kind of skirting being good again. And that's the bigger point, is Detroit hasn't been shit as long as the Bears haven't been shit. When you look at the Lions, they've been as bad just as long as the Bears have been bad. The sour grapes, it was a little upsetting from David Montgomery, but you know, it kind of builds to the offseason storylines, and that's what it's about at this point, right, Ross? You didn't take it personally, did you?
He's in his feelings, which I think Montgomery has been a guy that's been in his feelings before. He's a little emotional over how everything kind of fell out. As a running back, he's going to find out that maybe even the Detroit Lions don't love you as much as you think that they love you right now, because they drafted a running back top 15 overall despite signing you.
That's right.
So you might be one and done there too. You know, so it adds to the rivalry. I like that. Shout out to my guy Jonathan Wood on Twitter. He's been on this train for a couple of years now and saying that, you know, David Montgomery was a big part of why the Bears offense was really lackluster and not explosive enough. And he's got the stats and numbers to back it up. He's a very analytical guy if you follow him. So, you know, I think it just adds to the fire. I love it. I think the Bears are in a better situation right now without him. We wish him best of luck going forward. Not really. But, you know, listen, I think that adds more fuel to the fire. You get a guy like Tremaine Edmonds now who's there right now, who's trying to change the culture in this locker room. And he might put a helmet up his ass on a 3rd and short and remind David Montgomery, I remember what you said back in May, homeboy. And so I hope that just fuels this whole entire Bears team and leads them to greater things, because Detroit had a solid year in the last year, and they are the favorites, obviously, to win the NFC North, but they haven't won shit, and they haven't won shit in a long time. And I've seen listen, they've had arguably the greatest running back of all time. I still think it's Walter Payton, but Barry Sanders is right up there, and they still didn't win anything. So David Montgomery should be a little bit more humble and put his head down and focus on the task at hand. Because if not, he's got a rookie breathing on his back that's going to take his snaps away ASAP.
Right. It's a crowded running back room over there. And you're certainly, as far as running backs are concerned, this is like the back nine of your career. This is already a tough position for him to be in. So, whatever. You're on to the Lions. You're dead to me, David Montgomery. Where's Don Burr where I can shit talk?
I do like the number 5 jersey that he picked. I like when running backs do the single digit thing. So I'll give him that. He's wearing number 5 right now. I appreciate that. But keep your mouth shut, David, or keep running it for all I care. And let the Bears defense
let your play speak for itself, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's about. The number 5, man. I feel like only Reggie Bush can wear that. Give Reggie back his Heisman. That's a whole nother show for us. Ross, with the kickoff change, NFL just had a rule change approved on kickoffs where the fair catch, because they care so much about their players, where the fair catch will be spotted at the 25-yard line. That's much like the college rule. We may very well see kickoffs just go away at this point. I know a lot of people don't like this. You'll still get some returners who want to give it a go, but concussion rates have surged over the last couple of years on kickoff. So NFL again wants to show that they care about players. Are you for it, or is it just? I think you said it's just cardio for special teamers now at this point.
That's all it is. It's just cardio for special teamers, and you have to start to wonder, guys that have made a living throughout the career playing special teams, does this start to hurt their career long term, because you're starting to kind of slowly phase out a big part of that game. I mean, I know Matt Eberflus said yesterday that he thinks that this is going to result in more returns, because as kickers are going to try and pop it up and maybe catch return guys in a moment or something like that. We'll see. I think it's going to be. I think you'll see a lot more returns in inclement weather. And the Bears went out there in the offseason. Obviously, they got running back Travis Homer, who's got kick return capability. They also drafted Tyler Scott, who's got kick return capability as well. Maybe you got those guys who are going to try and test it, but it's obvious that the NFL is trying to phase out a portion of the game because they're trying to prevent injuries. I just call bullshit, because in the same breath, you just passed a rule saying that you're going to be able to flex Thursday night football games and give teams like a 28 day window or something like that. Like there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. It's like the NFL is talking out of two sides of their mouth. They're going to say we're trying to protect players on this side, and then they'll do one thing on this side, which is completely the opposite. So I don't like it. You've got Black Friday games now and more Thursday night games and so on and so forth. The schedule is just getting condensed. On top of that, they've got an extra week now that they have to play because they extended that a couple of years ago. So I just call bullshit on the NFL in general. They're going to do what they want to do for the sake of greed. I don't think that it's completely at the best interest of the players. And I like the kickoff return. I think it's a fairly mundane play, but it tends to be exciting. I love. There's nothing better to me than to see a guy return a kickoff for a touchdown in sports. It's kind of like the inside the park home run, so to speak. How can we forget last year the Buffalo Bills, the game after the whole DeMar Hamlin situation. They had 2 return kickoffs for touchdowns, and you're going to try and implement. You're just going to try and take that stuff away out of the game and that excitement and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm not either. It's been a huge part of games, and it can be a momentum swing you see. And I mean, of course, gone are the days of seeing a guy like Devin Hester who changed the game single-handedly as far as that aspect of the game. But it definitely. It's that third phase of special teams, right? It's just as important, you would think, as the field goals are and punts and all this. So it's just, I know a lot of special teamers, of course, are not happy about it as well, but it is what it is. Roger pretends to care about the players at this point. Anything else you're hot on with the NFL before we move on?
No, just we saw our first glimpse of Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform, and then he quickly exited the field with an ankle injury, and so he's gonna. I made a joke that all year you heard the he's 38 stuff on Twitter when it came to LeBron James and his injuries and stuff like that, and now you're gonna see the he's 39 stuff with Aaron Rodgers, but. Godspeed, Jets, because you signed up for this and you mortgaged your franchise for this situation, and we'll see. Also, I saw Jordan Love. Somebody was already on Twitter making excuses for him, saying that he was missing throws in OTAs, but he also didn't have his starting offensive line out there. They're in shorts and t-shirts. What does the starting line have? The offensive line have to do with you?
Yeah.
Right. What does that have to do with you missing throws? They're in t-shirts. You're not getting hit right now. That doesn't make any sense. So week 1 will be fun, and I can't wait. It's good to see a little football back. I'm not in a rush. Listen, we're getting the Memorial Day. We're gonna talk about it in a little bit. We're trying to enjoy our summer and stuff like that. But it's good to see. Shout out. We didn't talk about schedule release stuff, but shout out to the Bears are going to be in Kansas City for a game at Arrowhead after we thought they might be in Germany. I'll be in the house for that. That's going to be awesome. First visit at Arrowhead. We get a Black Friday football game this year, right? Which is going to be fun. So there's some really fun stuff on the schedule this year that we saw. It's going to be fun and exciting to get football back in our lives. There's a schedule right there.
Yeah, there you go. Opening up at home against the Packers too, against
absolutely.
Aaron Rodgers' former team, as we were talking about. Some great great games on that slate.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that Kevin Love. I'll do that Kevin Hart meme that they does when he pulls his hands back a little bit. But listen, this schedule is not that difficult. You look at that the first couple weeks. Week 1, week 2, they're winnable football games, right? You got Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield. Those are winnable football games right there. And Chiefs, that's going to be tough. But you look after that, you got winnable football games on this schedule, man. The Bears should be in that 7 to 9 win range, and that's where you take the next step. And shout out to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. I hope you go 1-16 this year, man, because we need that. We want that first overall pick again that you traded to us, and we want to flip that into a Marvin Harrison Jr. after a trade down. That's what I want.
Yeah. That'd be nice. It'd be nice. It is a different schedule than we're used to in terms of the Bears, and certainly seems to play in their favor when you host Green Bay and it's Jordan Love, and then Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers does not really scare you at all. Then you travel to the one of the toughest tests of the season, and we'll see how Justin Fields and company plays against the Chiefs. But yeah, that's we'll go ahead and give predictions as the offseason rolls on for sure. But Mac and Reed, the show rolls on here, and remember, you can go ahead and comment if you are watching live on YouTube. And let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals and the Celtics staying alive in the NBA. The Heat right now, they had a chance to sweep them in Game 4, but Game 5 it will be back in Boston. So with that win, Celtics were doing everything I feel like they were supposed to be doing in the first 3 games, right? And now Boston was able to neutralize Bam. They defended the 3-pointer well. Offensively, they were unselfish. You saw great ball movement. Like Tatum went off for 33. As a team, they shot 51% from the field. Jaylen Brown has yet to have that big game in the Eastern Conference Finals, but it was a confidence builder for him. Him and Marcus Smart were saying, quote, "Don't let us win one." And lo and behold, they forced that game back to Boston. And I wouldn't say it's a new series because, Jimmy is over there in his press conferences. What is he? I forget the song, but he's just very relaxed. He's like, "We'll have a beer and we'll be ready for Game 5." That's just how it goes. And so I wonder, who will win this and what your thoughts are thus far in the series. When we thought that Celtics were left for dead, they could easily turn it around if they play like they did on Tuesday night.
They can. I mean, the Celtics are the most talented team left in the playoffs. Let's get that out the way. Number one, they from top to bottom, they got the most talented roster left of the 3 teams now because the Lakers are eliminated. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, the 6th man of the year, so on and so forth. They've got a rookie head coach who was thrown into the fire after their head coach from last year got caught doing some off the court stuff that we don't need to get into, and he was forced to be let go. And I think that's where the biggest disconnect is right now with that roster. On top of the fact that the Celtics, to me, while they're super talented, just don't have that killer instinct or that toughness that you need to be able to push forward to the NBA Finals. And you know who does? The Miami Heat do, and the Miami Heat have been that way basically since Pat Riley got down to Miami, way back when Shaq and Dwayne Wade were still there, and he has Stan Van Gundy step aside to coach those guys to an NBA championship. And um, we talk about Eric Spoelstra, and people talk about him being a good coach. He's not a good coach. He's a great coach, and he's
Yes.
going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. He is that good. He has those guys up and ready every single day. They're focused. They run great sets. They play great defense. We've heard it all series. They're running 7 undrafted players out there, and plus Jimmy Butler, who Jimmy Butler's a great player. Is he? I guess now he's top 10, but he's not top 5 in the league. He's certainly not more talented than Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, but he's doing more with his talents with the situation. And I just think it's really awesome what those guys have been able to do down there. And the Heat culture thing is real. It's real. It's been real. You've seen them continue to go on, with this for years now. And it was nice to see the Celtics actually fight back for once yesterday and do some punches. I thought Jason Tatum was really awesome, especially in the second half of that basketball game. And now you got to go home and you got to defend home court. And they've been really lousy at that throughout the playoffs. They've been lousy all year, but your backs are against the wall. You're the more talented team. You're in Boston, which has all this tradition and pride, and you've got 16 banners in the rafters and stuff like that. Go out there and make this a series. And I think they can still make this a series. I think if you win, what's the game tomorrow night, right? Probably if you win tomorrow night,
7:30 tomorrow night.
in Boston, then all of a sudden things get more interesting. Because I'll tell you this about Miami. This has nothing to do with the actual Miami team, but I was obviously in Miami last weekend. It is the most non-sports town I've ever been in my life. I spent a whole weekend in that city. I went off of South Beach. I went into the mainland and stuff like that. Evan, I saw zero Heat stuff. I didn't see any Marlins stuff. I didn't see any Dolphin stuff. I saw zero Miami sports just stuff. No jerseys, no hats, no memorabilia, nothing. We're from Chicago. You can't go to a bar in Chicago without seeing any of that stuff. Or you can't walk by a store without seeing all this stuff. Even in the airport, I was in the airport in Miami, nothing. No, because Bradley plays his little league team is the Marlins. So I was going to get him a Marlins hat. I couldn't find a Marlins hat in fucking Miami, Florida, which is the weirdest thing to me. And then when I landed back in Chicago, the first thing I saw, Cubs gear, Sox gear, Bears gear, Harry Caray's in the middle of the airport, restaurant, stuff like that. So it's just really weird. So, the crowd in Miami, they're chill, they're drinking some champagne, they got all white on. There's DJ Khaled over here, there's Derek Jeter over there. They're like, Boston can win game 6 in Miami if they just get it back there. And then all of a sudden, game 7, everybody's buttholes start to clench up a little bit, but they got to get it there. And they've got to say, listen, we are the more talented team, and we just need to take this thing one at a time. Teams are I think I saw a stat today, 0-151 in when you're down 3 on a series. But it just takes one. It just takes that one team to be able to break that curse, and they could do it. I'm not picking them to do it. I think that the Heat will still win in 6 games, because I don't think Spoelstra will allow them to lose 4 straight games. But I think Boston can do it. I think it's a little bit higher probability than you would see normally.
As much as it's a momentum type of thing where we've seen this before, we've seen teams come back from 3-1, and it's like you said, it's 0-155 when there's a opposing team in that situation coming down from a 3-0 hole. But it does take that one game that's a confidence builder. And that was the formula if you're the Celtics, right? Where you go ahead and you see that Grant Williams was playing pretty good defense on, Jimmy's going to get his, but it's your rotation defense on Jimmy and on those shooters, like getting Strus hot and getting those other guys like Caleb Williams going to get his as well, but Kevin Love not letting him go off. I think Duncan Robinson is a big catalyst for that team. So making sure he didn't go off. He had 2 points in the game there. And then offensively, they need this every game where they get at least double figures from Al Horford, I feel like, or at least a few big threes, two big threes, and then some points in the paint. he can't just be standing around and just taking up space as the 36-year-old. But you saw Jaylen Brown building that confidence. Are we going to see in this game 5 at home, Jaylen Brown like take the mask off, so to speak, and go off for 30 and take that pressure off of Jason Tatum too? Because we know what Jason Tatum can do, and it took him so long to score points in the fourth quarter. He didn't score in the fourth quarter a field goal until that last game in game 4, which is just unheard of for a guy who's probably in that conversation for top 5 players in the NBA at this point. Grant Williams, he put up 14 points. You didn't see much from Malcolm Brogdon, but you've seen him put up double digits too. So it's got to be those adjustments. And Joe Mazzulla, is a nice placeholder, but this is where you leverage that if you're Joe Mazzulla. And you were talking about how important Eric Spoelstra is, which he is. Joe Mazzulla, this is the start of his career. He's younger than Al Horford, and he's sort of that young man on this team where it's a very tough position to be in. That's a huge spotlight to try to get them back to the finals for one. And your legacy would already be solidified if you can somehow come back, or at least extend this to 6 games, something like that. But I don't see it. I think it does come back to coaching and what you saw from Eric Spoelstra. Miami has already proven that they can go ahead and win in Boston, which is a tough place to play, but those fans get after it for sure. That's crazy, because you have seen an opposite story of what the picture you painted with Miami fans and how they really do bring it at those Miami games. And it's certainly a lot of noise. And we saw it when, the Heat were great with the LeBron years and Bosh and Wade, and the Wade years, prior to that with Shaq. And, it's a storied franchise. So it's just bananas to me to hear that there's not even, any flags in the windows of bars or something like that. But I digress. And I think in this game 6, you'll see Jimmy continue to get his, but it'll come down to that unselfish basketball. And Eric Spoelstra has been able to get a lot out of this supporting cast, and Bam Adebayo had an off game, and it comes back to that too. And I think that Adebayo can feast and have 20 points, 15 rebound type of game once again, and continue to share the ball with Jimmy, who had 29 points. But we're also due for one of those games where Jimmy can just take over. And outside of you look at a guy in the Western Conference who's been playing really well, and that would be Jamal Murray. Playing his ass off, it's been Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has been the best player in the playoffs individually, you would say, I would think. So it's hopefully going to be a competitive one. We saw the Celtics pull away in that game 4, but it should be a real close one as, again, the Celtics try to stave off some elimination here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think if you're looking at it from Miami's standpoint, you have to start saying, listen, Jimmy, you're the reason why you got us here, and bring us home. And I think Jimmy is going to have that killer instinct coming out to try and rip the hearts out of the Celtics and their fans tomorrow night in their building. We've seen him do that before. And on the flip side of it, if you're the Celtics, you say, we can't let him do that. Anybody else on this court has to beat us except Jimmy Butler. We're going to make Max Strus hit jumpers and Gabe Vincent hit jumpers and stuff like that. But we're not going to let Jimmy Butler kill us. And to the coaching point, Joe Mazzulla has to say, I'm going down with my guys, and then I'm going down with my 7 or 8 top guys, and I'm not playing anybody else. And if somebody does not have it, if Marcus Smart, for example, doesn't have it, I got to be ready to pull him and say, there's no hard feelings. We're just trying to extend our season. I got to get you in there for Derek White or something like that. And you talked about Jaylen Brown. He looks hurt to me. I know they've been talking about it on the broadcast, whether he's got an elbow thing and a hand thing. He just does not look comfortable out there on the court. But on the flip side, he still can do some other things, specifically to me on the defensive end, to help his basketball team to win games. So it's going to be fun. I know for the NBA standpoint, because the finals don't even start until June 1st, which is not until next, Wednesday or Thursday, next Thursday of next week. So I know they want to see this series extended out because they don't want a full week of no basketball. So, let's hope that we can at least go into the holiday weekend with at least one more game. But boy, it'd be fun if we can get a hypothetical Monday night game 7 in Boston. But at least give me game 6 over the weekend, please, or over the nice holiday weekend. Give me that
Agreed. Much. Yeah, I would like a basketball game, and whoever wins, I mean, extending a game 7 would be insane. But we're seeing Jimmy Butler in this push. It's pretty unheard of, and Eric Spoelstra definitely in the conversation with all these big name coaches getting the axe, like Budenholzer being out in Milwaukee and Monty Williams out with the Suns, Doc Rivers getting the axe as well with the 76ers. It's a tough gig, man. And Spoelstra, just fed the haters when he had LeBron on this team, but now to turn it around and the Heat weren't great for a while, but then getting Jimmy Butler and then thriving with Jimmy Butler and Bam as that sort of core, and then building around him, having all these undrafted free agents and guys outside of, say top 10 or top 5 lottery picks is pretty insane. And Jimmy Butler, who's a guy who just has a work ethic like no other. So this series hopefully will continue to live up to it as the Heat push. But on the other side, we saw just how good the Denver Nuggets are. And, the Nuggets swept out the Lakers in a thriller in LA on Monday in game 4. LeBron did all he could to the tune of 40 points. He had 10 rebounds, 9 assists. He left it all out there. But it was Jokic who seemed to be the big difference maker. And he was just hitting shot after ridiculous shot, those step back, one-legged threes, and just bullying his way in there past AD. He's just unstoppable to an extent. He tallied a triple-double in that win. They were dominant all series, but it looked like time had caught up to the Lakers, who were the other big name play-in team in this tournament. And LeBron, just like time ran out for him. He had to do all this heavy lifting when AD couldn't go off as well. Austin Reeves can only do so much for you. He was an undrafted free agent who you wouldn't think would be giving him 20 points a game and 4 threes a game, something like that. What a tough place to win in LA. You talk about the atmosphere for games like this, but that cast around Jokic is so scary. And Ross, we've talked about how much we love this Nuggets team repeatedly, but Aaron Gordon, who, talk about lottery picks and coming out of high school, was supposed to be this killer, this guy as advertised. In game 4, when it mattered most, he had 22 points. He had big defensive plays throughout the game. He was bodying LeBron, and both got teed up. He said he don't care if he's your GOAT about LeBron. And I wanted to see that type of shit from him for a long time, not being just a great dunker, but honing his skills and being a good all-around player at 27 years old now, too. And same thing with Michael Porter Jr., who was really heralded out of college, and then you go ahead and you see him really just his stock go down with the injuries that he had suffered over his NBA career for sure, but now a consistent like 15 points a game, and he gets 3 threes a game. He chucks a lot of threes, but what rings defensively and lengthwise is really big. KCP as well. But again, going back to the best players in the playoffs so far, Jamal Murray in that series, averaging over 30 points a game and just looking unstoppable. And now he's getting in that conversation of one of those best shooting guards in the game at this point. The best year yet, a hell of a playoff run, and obviously really brought it. And now they're going to get that rest. There's the argument that you certainly need that rest if you're the Nuggets, and the same for the Heat and the Celtics, whoever comes out of that series. But the Nuggets just look like a monster right now, and to see them sweep any team, let alone a LeBron-led LA team, is uber impressive and just adds on to this insane playoff run they've had so far, right, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we were talking about Jokic since I feel like November, and I try to tell people this guy is the best player in the NBA, and you need to be watching his games because the things that he's doing on the court are things unlike we've ever seen before from a player that size, and just his passing is amazing. His ability to push the basketball up the court. He's basically their point guard at 7 feet tall and 260 pounds. And he gets them into their offense. He gets every single guy on the court an amazing shot. And I was just absolutely just marvel at the way he plays this game. It's so much fun. I think a lot of people now coming out of this series, because they didn't really watch a lot of Denver Nuggets basketball, they now know how good he is, and they realize why he was a 2-time a back-to-back MVP, and he should have won this one this year. I think some politics got involved, and people were tired of seeing him win MVP. But we see now he's definitely a more valuable player than Joel Embiid out there on the basketball court. And so it's really cool to see this story because I love the way this roster was created. Jokic is a guy who was drafted in the second round, and when he was drafted, the telecast had cut to a Taco Bell commercial. You didn't even see the moment on the screen of
It's the
when he
running
was
joke. It's so
drafted. Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah.
You know, you didn't see that. But, you know, listen, they took a chance on Jamal Murray. They took a chance on him even coming back from the torn ACL injury after his great bubble run. And they don't trade him. They stick with him. They get him healthy. You know, head coach Mike Malone had great words about that because he thought that he was going to get traded afterwards. You look at their roster, you talked about Michael Porter Jr. You take a chance on him, even though he had the back injuries coming out of college, and he's healthy and he's becoming their third best scorer on the court. You trade for Aaron Gordon, who was kind of a cast off, you know, a high lottery pick guy. It didn't really work out, especially in Orlando, was a castaway. He's playing good basketball right now. Contavious Caldwell Pope is a role player who's bounced around the league, but he's a smart guy. He's a veteran. He knows where to be in the right spots. He knows how to knock down jumpers. He's been in big basketball games. Bruce Brown was basically the guy that was lighting it up on the bench on the Nets last year. They let him go. Very savvy free agent signing. They just put together a really, really good roster that is not very deep, but you don't need to be very deep in the playoffs because you just need 7 guys, and then you got the best guy. You got and it all comes back to Jokic, and that's it. And the Lakers had 0 answers for him. He was phenomenal. I thought Anthony Davis was embarrassing trying to guard Jokic and score up against Jokic, and I think that was a very tough look for him coming out of this. And regardless of what happens in the Eastern Conference, I don't think there's a team in the East I don't think either the Celtics or the Heat are going to be able to hang with this team. They're the best team at home in the playoffs in the regular season. It is brutal to even step foot off of a plane in Denver and catch your breath, let alone play basketball. And so you mean to tell me that you're going to try and have to win basketball games there, and these guys are used to it, accustomed to it, especially the style and the pace that they play. It's just, I think it's their year, and I think it's really cool. I think it's cool for the NBA to see a different market win, a different superstar win, right? Because now it's the Jokic time. It reminds me of very much like Dirk Nowitzki when he won back in 2011. And you know, I think Mike Malone's a great coach. I think the Jamal Murray piece is a great story because I think he's an underrated player that we don't talk about enough as a superstar in this league. He's got to get 40 points any night, anytime he wants to. He's proven it throughout the playoffs. And so it's fun. I love watching this basketball team play. As Bulls fans, we get very, very envious of what they have and how they built their roster. But it's good for the league. Oh, yeah. It's fun for the league, and I can't wait. I think regardless who wins in the East, I got Nuggets in 5. That's I'll throw it out there right now. Nuggets in 5.
Look at you. Hasn't even been set, but yeah, the Nuggets are something else. And then that rotation of just 7 guys just beating the tar out of the Lakers there in a close one, and guaranteeing they get even more rest before the game 1 of the finals. First time that the Nuggets are in the finals in their history as a franchise is something else. But of course, we're not even talking about the Nuggets that much because of LeBron's comments in the following days, as Ross is shaking his head. But LeBron, are we really believing this? LeBron is considering retirement on the heels of getting swept. I don't buy it. I think that he certainly has nothing left to prove. This whole chasing MJ's ghost thing is kind of over, especially after becoming the all-time leading scorer where they stopped a fucking game to honor his achievement, which still bothers me to this day. And he backtracked on the whole playing with his son Bronny thing, who committed to USC, and who they could be playing on the same team if LeBron would get his way. Just despite all this talk, it's just because your team got bent over. I don't think there's a chance he retires. He certainly doesn't need the $100 million that he would lose, even though he's under contract at this point. But I think that also plays into it. I think it's just really on again, you sort of reassess things when you go ahead and come back to reality and see that, man, like, even if I'm playing GM on this team and it's a new tenure, what do I do next? And what do I have to prove at this point? I could consider myself the best. A lot of people do consider me the best. At what point? He has been pretty injury free, and you think about, I don't know what he wants to do. He can do anything after basketball, but yeah, I just don't buy it. I at least see him probably running it back with the Lakers next year again because of being under contract and for some other reasons.
Yeah, I think the narcissist in LeBron is not going to allow himself to walk away without that whole season pomp and circumstance and getting that final farewell tour that you would give to a great athlete. So I think he's gonna
Like Kobe got. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I think he's gonna want that. And then number two, I think a lot of this is posturing to try and get the front office for the Lakers to push for one more star to get there. We saw Kyrie ironically sit on the sidelines of every single Lakers home game this series, and LeBron went to him and he does his little special dap up that he has with Kyrie Irving, and I think that's the posturing move. But I do think that if the Lakers don't acquiesce to LeBron and maybe bring in a guy like Kyrie or another superstar, then I might think he might say in September or something like that, you know what? I'm out. I'm out. I live in LA. I'm filthy rich. My boy's going to college. I can make movies here. I can do The Shop and other TV shows and stuff like that. So I do think there's like a 25-30% chance that he does walk away if he doesn't like the roster heading into the season. Because listen, I think that this was their best shot at winning an NBA title going forward. It only gets worse because he only gets older. AD only gets older. AD was healthy for most of this year. We know that's not going to happen next year. And their roster is a mess outside of that. They don't have the pieces in place to compete with the Phoenix Suns of the world, who are going to have a healthy KD and Devin Booker next year. And we know that the Nuggets are going to be locked and loaded again. And we know that the Clippers are going to be back and so on and so forth. So there is a possibility that he could walk away. But right now, I don't see it. But, you never know. We saw Michael Jordan walk away for the first time, in October, like a week before training camp or a couple of days before training camp. So, anything's possible. But what I don't like about it is we're taking away from the Jokic conference. This is the Jokic time right now. So LeBron, you lost 4 games to nothing. Fuck off. Like fuck off.
Go to Kingston. It's time.
Let's talk about Jokic and Jimmy Butler, please. The league is going to be just fine whenever he walks away. That's my takeaway from this. I love the young talent in this league right now. 20 years of LeBron is enough. Peace out, brother. Thank you for everything that you've given us. We wish you best of luck going forward. Whenever you walk away,
you left your mark.
I'm over it. Yeah.
You left your mark. I mean, dude, and you could only imagine. I really just don't see another ring or just more so. I don't see this roster just playing out. If it's somehow, let's see, the best case scenario is him getting Kyrie Irving, right? And pairing up with AD, and that's your big three. And then what, you re-sign Austin Reeves to a huge contract and Hachimura, and then somehow the bench plays out a little better. I just still don't think it gets you past that Warriors team or the Nuggets and other Western Conference powers, or even whoever comes out of the East potentially. He really just has nothing left to prove, which is the bigger thing to me. And I kind of wish he would just go off and not even announce it. I get why players do the farewell tour, but you don't really need it at that point. It just doesn't feel like LeBron to me. So to that end, maybe there's an off chance that he does retire in the offseason, but I don't buy it. Neither Ross or I buy it at this point. But who did retire is the Syracuse legend Carmelo Anthony, and who was just one of the best shooters of all time. And it's a bummer that he retires without a ring, of course, and let alone not having won a conference final. And he was just getting passed around for a lot of teams. One of the best Nuggets of all time. Let's not forget that as well. Had some great time in New York as well. But Carmelo Anthony, who was just an electric player and had some, I love the fuck out of here, like with the grabbing rebounds thing he would do, and just what he would do. And just in that class of guys who, in LeBron's class and Wade, and thinking about that class of guys, I was literally just talking about it before he retired too, and thinking about DeMar DeRozan and Chris Paul and guys like that who had to go up against LeBron or Wade and just came up with the short end of the stick and weren't able to get a ring, but still had pretty phenomenal careers. He's a Hall of Famer, right, Ross?
He's 100% a Hall of Famer. He's the Bernard King of his era, which is basically a great scorer in the league who couldn't really get over the hump, but he ran up against some really good teams back then, and some really good stars, guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron James and Steph Curry and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, listen, the guy is top 10 all time in scoring, and he's just he was an amazing basketball player. He's also I think people forget he's the greatest Team USA basketball player of all time, like of all
Yeah.
time. That's where he really made his mark. Is we remember the Hoodie Mellow days and stuff like that. And he would come in the game, and he was absolutely dynamic in those Team USA basketball games. But I remember him. I remember watching him play at Syracuse for that 1 year, and him and McNamara winning that title. I went to school on the East Coast in Virginia for college. I remember hearing the stories about him coming out of the Maryland area. I was like, man, this guy Carmelo Anthony, he's something. He's going to be a great one. And he lived up to the hype. He was absolutely outstanding for his entire career. So, Godspeed to him. It's kind of an end of an era. Those guys like that don't really, they're not really around anymore. I feel like a guy like him would just step out to the 3-point land now and just jack up 8 or 9 threes a game. But he was a deadly mid-range scorer and a post-up player. It's guys like Melo and Paul Pierce and those of that nature. Those guys are gone now. We're not going to see those guys ever again. 6'7", 225 pounds who are just beasts, 15 to 17 feet into the basket.
Yeah, Carmelo, still a hell of a career. It's like you said, winning those 3 rings with winning the medals rather with Team USA was something else. Just an incredible pure shooter, man. And in that class of guys, and Dwayne Wade and LeBron, he's a presence who will be missed. But 19 seasons, you can hang it up for sure. And I'm curious to see what Carmelo does next. But we shall see. We shall see. So, quick tying up the show here, Ross, with Tina Turner, man. That news was crazy today, but I know that the family had said she'd been battling the longer-term illness. I think she had kidney failure or something before this. Ultimately, dying at 83, comfortably in Sweden. I didn't know she lived in Sweden either. By the way, that shout out Sweden. Good for her. But what can you say about Tina Turner? I know my father is sad. He texted me right away because we're both just big, R&B and rock fans. I know you were a fan too, Ross. She's on the petty side of me is she's reunited with Ike fighting in heaven right now, making a scene. But that's low hanging fruit. But seriously, so talented. She's such a legend. Called the Queen of Rock and Roll for a reason. Just electric. If you never saw her live, and I never did. I don't know if you did, Ross, but you see the videos and the performance of Proud Mary just give you chills. She was just so electric and incredible, and that was such a great version of the song What's Love Got to Do with It, and many other hits. Just one of the most successful recording artists of all time. The Chicago Connection is attending East St. Louis high school, and then hooking up with Ike eventually. The outpouring so crazy, Mick Jagger, giving her flowers as well. And there's so many R&B and rock singers that just wouldn't be here without that influence as well. Just an incredible presence, but gone and not forgotten. Certainly a great legacy, Hall of Famer.
100%. One of the biggest rock stars in an era where, being black and doing rock music wasn't as popular, or it was really tough to do. And so what her and Ike Turner did at that time to be superstars was amazing. The music set the groundwork for so much rock, pop, and R&B that we hear today. To me, what stands out the most from her is the resiliency that she had. Obviously, we know about the struggles that she had with Ike. If you've ever seen What's Love Got to Do with It, played, amazingly by Angela Bassett and by Lawrence Fishburne. Both of them deserve Oscars for that role. For their roles in that film. But we saw what she had to endure about that. And then, she was basically black. I don't think a lot of people know this. She was basically blackballed from the industry for exposing Ike Turner and for kind of going through that stuff. And she became a Buddhist, and she got really in touch with that situation. And then she comes back all the way in 1983 or 84, I believe. And she comes out with that album and has What's Love Got to Do with It. And she's back, and she's one of the biggest stars in the world again. And the woman at the time was damn near, she was past her 40s, so she has a massive hit with that. And she's on stage, she's doing songs with Michael Jackson. She's in We Are the World and David Bowie and Mick Jagger and so on and so forth. So she just had multiple careers, and she was such a resilient person on and off the stage, and she was awesome. And as my dad would always say, she also had the best legs that you would have ever seen from an entertainer, and she was very famous for that. Her legs were actually insured That's how great they were.
That's a great way to end it, Ross. She was
Yeah.
incredible. So I'll be listening
Yes.
to a bunch of Tina Turner this weekend, as I know you will be, as well as B turning 18 years old. Common's B, which is arguably his best work. I mean, it's a fantastic album. He has a great catalog. Chicago's own Common. For me, it's Yes, that's his best work. Just the flow of that album from first to last song is so nuts. Incredible production. You get Kanye and Jay Dilla in there, and you get two of my favorite Johns helping out with some of the songs, and John Mayer and John Legend. I love it. The food is such a great hit there. The corner, just every part of it. The way it hits off with the bass line and B and the end. It's just a very great message too. Am I right, Ross? And how I know you had one of the lyrics, which I'm sure you will recount in a moment, tattooed on your arm, and it's it's a great catalog of work that Common has, but this is his, sort of magnum opus. This is the best thing that we've seen him do by far, and it's one of those perfect albums. It's one of those, arguably, you'd say like 5 albums on a desert island type of shit. Like I would put that on there. Very good.
100%. It's one of my, one day I'll make a list of my top 5 favorite Chicago albums of all time. It's certainly on that list for me. It's got one of my favorite intros of all time, which is B, which it does have the lyric, "The present is a gift, and I just want to be." It's what's tattooed on my arm. The production's amazing. I think it's some of Kanye's best work of his career. I think Common and Kanye made absolutely amazing, music, obviously, at the time. It's got "Testify" on there, which has Taraji P. Henson video. I think it's one of the best music videos of all time, and it's got the little spin with the song that, spoiler alert, it ends up that she was the queen pen. And so that was in the height of the music era. I think also people forget this is the album that he came out with after Electric Circus, which is a massive flop. People just did not like that album a lot. I wasn't a big fan of that album either. And to me, it felt like he got back to his Chicago roots and his hip hop roots, and he came out with a classic. And I love B. It's 18 years old. You listen to it now, it doesn't feel like it's 18 years old. It still feels like he could have came out with this album yesterday. And I think it's a very underrated hip hop classic. You talked about the food. The food, obviously, we had that moment on the Dave Chappelle show where they performed that song live, and I think that's what helped blow up that song and the album, was that live performance.
Yeah. A great one. What you got planned for the weekend, Ross? Your favorite Memorial Day activity is probably not working, right?
Not working, taking the time
Right there
off.
with you.
This is the time where we us, like every other family, will go to Home Depot and start to get the flowers to put into the patio areas and the garden area and stuff like that. This is a good weekend to just grill and play some music and have some people over and celebrate the fact that it's the official start of the summer, and hopefully we'll turn a page and get to more warmer weather going forward.
Anything good on the grill?
We're gonna go traditional, some burgers, some hot dogs, some brats, just super traditional. Nothing fancy right now. This is the start of the grill season, so you got to go very traditional. And then after you get a little tired with the traditional stuff, you switch it up. You switch it up about mid-summer. But we're gonna stick to the basics here, as we're a little rusty. It's like preseason game 1, and you gotta just kind of stick to the script for the first 15 plays.
It's always like weather pending, right? It's very, very much, especially in the Midwest, it's a fucking crapshoot. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna try to parent as little as possible, which probably isn't possible in itself. But not work. I'll make some good drinks. Maybe we'll smoke a shoulder. Maybe we'll do some ribs, something like that. And of course, burgers, dogs. Just have the meat sweats, and then rinse and repeat, as it were. But we hope that all of you have a great Memorial Day weekend, and thanks for tuning in to the Barroom Network. We've been Mac and Reed on YouTube. Remember, if you missed any of the previous episodes and this one, there'll be audio-only versions on, of course, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts and all that good stuff. And this will also be on YouTube after the show is over. But follow us on Twitter. Follow me at 311Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. We will see you next time. But for now, we say deuces. Be good to each other out there. So long, everybody.
Thank you.